Hey YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Top 3 Tuesday. Let me just pull the chair a bit closer. Yeah, sorry I look a mess today. I'm feeling like shit. This has been filmed on Saturday and I got a stomach bug or something. So I'll spare you the details. Took Rossi, my dog, for a walk today. We were about 5 or 6k away from my house. It was nearly a mad sprint home because I was desperate for the toilet. So I won't go into it anymore. It's not that kind of channel, trust me. Yeah, so we got a good one trying to cheer myself up. I thought, let's do a YouTube video early for Tuesday. So this is Top 3 Tuesday. And what we're going to do today is we're going to do a guy in work, shout out Dan. Very good idea for this week's Top 3 Tuesday. I got a couple of the guys brainstorming ideas I can do for next week's episode of Top 3 Tuesday. So the one that stood out and it excited me was my top 3 controllers of all time. And Dan's favourite controller is the Nintendo Wii controller with its 2 fucking buttons. He explained his reasons why, and at the time it was very innovative, I think is the word, but I fucking burst out laughing. I think maybe that's why I got a stomach bug, actually. When we were talking about it in work yesterday, I was like, almost like projectile vomiting. So maybe that's your fault that I'm feeling ill today, because he thinks the Nintendo Wii's got the best controller, or his favourite controller. Only joking. Love you really, Dan. Right, so, as always, I've got a couple of honourable mentions. Let me just make sure I've got the right order here. Yeah, what I'll do then, it's got to be official controllers as well, okay? So, for example, my Mad Catz, not sure the name of the stick, but it's the Street Fighter 4. This is for the Xbox 360. This is actually the closest thing I got to a fight stick for my Xbox 360. Currently bidding on one on eBay as we speak, but I haven't met the fucking... It's on there for X amount, so I've put a bid 20 quid more than the starting bid, and it's got I haven't met his reserve, but you don't know what the fucking reserve is, so whatever with that one. Anyway, let's get back to the channel, baby. Yeah, so this is a good controller. It's a lot better when you're playing like Street Fighter 4. It's a good controller for Street Fighter 4. It's got the nice big buttons. Kind of reminds me of the Sega Saturn controller, if I'm being honest. But yeah, so that one doesn't really count. I'm just going to show off my PS2 limited edition. It's still boxed. My Akuma, officially licensed product. Yeah. That's an absolute beast. I don't know if you'll pick it up on the camera. It's got this like hologram thing. Yeah, that's one of my pride and joys of my collection, let me tell you. You can get them. There's a Ken one, a Ryu, a Chun-Li one. If you ever see the Chun-Li one box out there, just fucking buy it. If you've got to sell or remortgage your house, it's worth it, trust me. That's the rarest one out there. Okay, so it doesn't include, my top 3 doesn't include any of them, but they're an honourable mention. Okie doke. Let's have a look then. Okay, when I was talking to the boys, I did say this would have been in my top 3, but when I'm actually looking at it, it's been demoted to honourable mention, and that's the Xbox 360 controller. I actually loved the original Xbox, the Duke, I think it's later been known as. Nice big controller. That told me that it was the first ever games console that was like designed for adults. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't a kid's toy because it had this big controller. Like if I was 7 or 8 years old with my tiny little fucking hands, yeah, I wouldn't be able to play that controller, you know. Then they came out with the other one, and they moved, I think, the black and the white button used to be up here or something, and then they moved it down here. So again, Xbox were happy with the controller, but they were like still working to improve the controller. And in my opinion, that's the perfected controller. And the Xbox One and the Series X, as far as I know, doesn't look too different to that, but they don't need to change it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Feels really good in the hand. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of the Xbox 360 controller, okay? Okay, another older one then, I did briefly mention it, is the Sega Saturn controller. Now, I didn't grow up with the Sega Saturn, so there's no nostalgia attached. I think one of my mates growing up had one, but yeah, I only played on it a couple of times, so there's no nostalgia attached. It's a good controller for fighting games, I gotta be honest. That's one of the main genres of games I collect for my Sega Saturn today. So I'm a big fan of the Sega Saturn controller. If I grew up with the Sega Saturn, maybe it would have gone a bit higher on this list, you know. But it's one of my newest consoles in my collection, being honest. Okay, another one then. Really good controller, but I had a couple of things I didn't like, okay. Lots of things I liked was the PlayStation 4 controller. Now, I got really good memories. It's got a really good weight. I haven't picked this controller up for fucking months, you know. It's not even connected. It's in my bedroom without the telly connecting to it, you know what I mean? So my PS4 is just collecting dust, you know, like Goro in the back of fucking Mortal Kombat 11. Anyway, this isn't the Mortal Kombat channel. So we'll go through things I like about it. I had no idea there was a speaker on there, okay? And I vividly remember, the first game I put on, because it came with the console, was Killzone Shadowfall. So I'm playing around now, going along, and it's either like an alarm or something goes off, and the alarm comes through the speaker on the controller. I was like, wow, that was so impressive. So I really like that. I like it in GTA 5 when the radio comes through, like the police radio comes through that speaker as well. I like the fact that the games don't overdo it. Not all the games use it, but like in GTA, it's only certain things, so it just adds to the overall experience. Staying with GTA then, obviously you had this big light on the back there. GTA is the best game for this. If you're playing in the dark and you're having a chase with the police, this flashes red and blue because of the sirens are flashing after you. It's an excellent controller. It's again the PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 5 controllers look very similar. You can see the innovation of them, if you like. But the thing I really don't like, it really bugged me, okay, is, do you know the options button and the share button? They don't really stick out enough for me. So you've got this big sensor there, which only a few games, maybe a couple of the launch games, use that. I know it's on the PlayStation Vita on the back as well, isn't it? So they're using that, it's very clever, that technology. Like there were some things you use it for in Killzone Shadowfall, for example. But then there wasn't much. So he's got that big fucking button, but then you can't really feel, they don't just stick out enough. Like all the other buttons, you don't have to look. You can feel your way around the controller. But then with that, I found myself, for the first year or so, looking down to see that I'm pressing the button, you know, because you can't, my fingers couldn't get used to it anyway. But other than that, it's a very good controller. Very reliable controller. Only issue I ever had, 100% my fault. I was playing, I was drunk. I was really relaxed drunk. I wasn't steaming or anything. I was about half a bottle of Malibu down back in my fucking dark days and my drinking days. When I was living in London, I had these like French doors going into my it was a tiny garden. So I'm there now, enjoying my drinking early afternoon as I used to on my days off. And I think I died in the game, and I just slowly just threw it. Not like, fuck you, and threw it. I just threw it. I've still got it somewhere, and it hit the wall right in the corner and split it open a bit. I tried to maybe put it back together. Maybe I needed a new button or something. It's a stupid thing I did, so I bought another one. I bought the camouflage one, because that'd make me better at Call of Duty, isn't it? Because it's camouflage army. People can't see my controller then, can they? So that's why I went for the camouflage one. Yeah, and then when I got back into current gen, when I rebought my PS4, was still current gen, I had a brand new controller with it as well. So I brought a pre-owned one, and the guy chucked in a brand new PS4 controller. So I am a fan of it, but it's not a perfect controller, okay? So, yeah. The one that knocked the Xbox out of my top 3. So this is my number 3. I can't do my top 3 without this appearing in it. It's the Super Nintendo controller. My finger, even, do you know the screw holes in the back? I don't know how you hold it. Some people, it might not be important. Maybe I am diagnosed with OCD. Maybe this is part of my OCD. My fingers have got to be in the holes, like that. Yeah, if they are not there, my fingers are locking. Do you know what I mean? So they'd be there, then I'll do, like, hit the shoulder buttons, then they go back. It's really weird. It's something I've always done, you know. What they call this, the bone controller or dog bone controller or something. I went from the Sega Master System that had 2 buttons to this, so I had 4, 5, 6, 8 button controller. It was a big jump, you know, it was a big deal. But it wasn't overwhelming, you know, but it just showed, like, not all the games even used the shoulder buttons, but it just showed, like, the leap in games, you know. This was a big deal back in the day, and just holding it feels nice, you know, it feels right in my hands. If I was to design a controller for the Super Nintendo, and I had a limitless budget, or unlimited budget, I'd probably still come up with something like that. It's really, really good. I like the colours. Each button's got a different colour as well. Yeah, very, very, very good controller. On to number 2 then. So another Nintendo. So Nintendo do know how to make a controller. I know it's not the N64 controller. Where is my N64? I'm not going to grab it now. The N64 controller is quite funny. It feels good in your hand. Some games I could, like GoldenEye, I could technically play with one hand. And you can see the Nintendo Wii, that Joy-Con thing, looked very similar to part of the N64 controller. So they were onto something with that. But much better than the N64 controller is the GameCube controller. I'm a big fan of the GameCube controller. A lot of things remind me of GameCube controllers. Like when I'm out and about, reminds me of the GameCube controller. Shout out Luxton and Chris for that comment. You know what I'm on about. But yeah, this is my original GameCube controller from back in the days. The only console I've got, and my Sega Master System as well. They're the only 2 consoles I've kept, GameCube and Master System. And that is, because I bought the black one, that is my original GameCube controller from back in the day. And again, it's just perfect. And people, they're still making this design, aren't they, for like the Smash Brothers community on the, I think, Nintendo Switch as well. This was still used on the Nintendo Wii games and stuff like that. So again, this has got a really long lifespan, you know, and it's quite strange at first. I wasn't sure of it by looking at it. It's not symmetrical at all. Like, you got one shoulder button there, then 2 big triggers there. It's very strange looking, and like these bits just seem to, like, I don't know, as if it's melting down. It's a really cool, interesting looking device, you know, but in your hand, it just feels absolutely right, you know. And this is why one of the reasons I like to play like one of my favorite games of all time, Capcom vs SNK 2, and part of the reason is because of this controller, you know. It's perfect in my opinion for Nintendo anyway. Yeah, can't really say much more about that. Can't fault it. And I've never had any issues. Trust me, I've played my Nintendo GameCube a fucking ton. I've never once let me down, you know. So I have actually got a spare controller. Actually found a Nintendo GameCube in my father's house when I was tidying up after he passed away, with a couple of other little hidden gems, let's say. But we're not going into that. So I've got a spare GameCube and a spare GameCube controller as well. Okay, so the number 1 controller, I think a lot of people might agree, is the PlayStation 5 controller. This thing is awesome, okay? When I was doing research, I suppose I am brand loyal, but no, like back in the console wars, like Sega against Nintendo, we were almost like brainwashed into you can only be one or the other. So I was hardcore Sega because I had the Sega Master System. Fuck Mario, this and that. But then I started looking, going, it looks pretty good, Mario World. And then you had like Street Fighter 2 Turbo. I thought that looks pretty good as well. So I jumped ship Then I was hardcore Nintendo. But as you get older, you're like, yeah, whatever. What games are the best, you know? So one of the things, yeah, that's where I was going with the story. So when I was looking at like the technology, like all the press releases of the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, or whatever the fuck it's called, the Xbox controller, which is nothing wrong with it, but when they started talking about the PlayStation controller, I was like, wow, they've really gone to town. This is it really is state-of-the-art controller. I really like the look of it. It's gone that little bit, like if you compare, I got the PS4 controller here. You know, it's still very similar. It's a little bit chunkier. They've done away with that light. There is still, you probably know, there is still a thin light around there. Obviously, it's got the speaker in there. But the thing, one of the things I love is the triggers. I'm not sure what it's called, but a good example is if you're playing like Ghost of Tsushima and you've got the bow, and further back you pull, it would in reality get tighter and tighter and tighter, wouldn't it? The trigger gets tighter and tighter. And shooting games, and some of the shooting games as well. Different guns, because they would be, wouldn't they? Not all guns got the same trigger feel, you know? So stuff like that, it's really clever. The vibration thing that's in it as well is really good. Like, it doesn't just, like I think it was a PS2, one of those see-through ones. And it was wild. It was when you something vibrate, you could see the thing spinning in there. I thought it was really clever. It's nice to see. But I'd love to see how it works inside there, you know. But it's like, it vibrates. It's really clever. Like if wind can come past, you can feel the vibration go from one side to the other side. I'm probably not explaining it very well. Those of you that haven't experienced the PS5 yet, the highlight is, well, how fast it is, slightly better graphics, like, for example, Ghost of Tsushima, it looked beautiful on the PS4, it looks spectacular on the PS5, but the controls on it, if it says it supports like a free upgrade, for example, definitely do that, but the controller is the highlight of the PS5 for me so far, you know. So yeah, that is my top 3 controllers of all time. I might do one, probably do fight sticks, but I was going to film that today for next week, but I've just ordered or put a bid on one, so maybe I will, maybe I won't, so stay tuned for that. Let me know in the comments, what's your number 1 or top 3 controllers of all time? I think it's a really good idea, so thanks Dan, shout out Dan again for the second time. Let me know in the comments, what's your top 3, or let me know, is there any other ideas for top 3 Tuesday? Yeah, I'm not going to talk anymore. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for subscribing and liking these videos. It really does make my day, you know. Yeah, that's enough. As always, love you. Bye.